Hi, I'm Drex. For many of us that practice the flow arts, our first introduction to it is via seeing fire performance and being amazed by the beauty and power of it. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the role of fire in the flow arts and how to do it safely. I first got into the flow arts when I visited Burning Man in 2006. I had never seen fire dancing before, and it was absolutely hypnotic. I resolved to learn how to do it when I got home, and I would say that learning to spin fire absolutely changed my life forever. You may think that fire dancing has its origins in antiquity, but it's actually a surprisingly recent development. The first person to dance with fire as a prop was a Samoan knife dancer by the name of Freddie Latuli. At a Shriners Convention in 1946, Latuli borrowed ideas from an Indian fire eater, wrapping a wick around his knife and soaking it in naphtha fuel before lighting it on fire. Latuli used asbestos for his wicking. Fortunately, we've come a long way since then. Many of us who've taken up the flow arts have done so explicitly with the goal of spinning fire. It continues to be the most visually dynamic way to spin our props, especially to people outside of the flow arts community. It also feels absolutely amazing. Spinning fire is a huge rush, and for many, there's also a huge spiritual significance to using this element for practice or for performance. Despite the flow arts moving away from fire as its primary focus, it still retains a great deal of its mystique. Spinning in a fire circle is usually a highlight of attending a fire festival, and seeing your favorite artist spin fire can be a treasured experience. If you're a flow artist yourself, I'm sure you'll want to spin fire at some point, so here's a quick guide to what you'll need and what you'll need to watch out for. Now, first and foremost, it must be said that any activity involving fire is by definition dangerous. The only way to avoid injury entirely is not to spin with fire. With all that said, here are some ways that you can manage the risks associated with it. We'll start with your equipment. Most fire props use Kevlar wicks that are tied in knots or wrapped around a metal rod. Make sure you have no loose Kevlar that's coming off the wick. If there are stray threads, cut them off with a strong pair of scissors before you use them. Next, check all your hardware for any loose equipment. Fire poi frequently make use of metal links that open and close with a small piece that can be screwed on or off. These are called quick links. Make sure these are tight before you dip. Finally, check yourself. Are you in a good mental and physical state? Alert and focused? Do you have any physical injuries that might become a problem? Be honest with yourself. It's better to be safe than sorry. One quick note here. Alcohol and drugs and fire spinning are a bad combination. It only takes one accident for things to go very badly for everyone, and they're more likely to happen when your judgment is impaired. Do yourself and your community a favor, and make sure you spin sober. Also, check your clothing. You'll want to avoid clothing that's made out of synthetic fibers such as rayon, polyester, spandex, and nylon. This is super important. Synthetic fibers like these are actually made out of plastic. If they light on fire, they will melt to your skin like Legos in an oven. Try to keep to only natural materials like cotton, wool, or leather, or a type of synthetics called aramids that include Nomex and Kevlar. Make sure your clothing has no stray or fraying ends, and the tighter the weave, the better. Here in the United States, the most commonly used fuel is a variant on naphtha, also called white gas or Coleman fuel. This is the liquid fuel used in older camp stoves. It evaporates at room temperature, so it tends not to leave a mess. This also means, though, that it has a very low flash point, or temperature at which it will ignite. It burns very brightly and very hot, so be prepared to deal with some pretty intense heat. Other fuels that are occasionally used are ultra-pure lamp oil or kerosene. Both of these fuels leave an oily residue and produce smoke when burned, but also burn much longer than naphtha. They also both have a relatively high flash point, so you'll need to expose them to direct flame for several seconds before they'll begin to burn. Do not, under any circumstances, use gasoline. It is highly flammable and burns much hotter than naphtha. Next, you'll need to fuel your prop. The equipment necessary to do this is often collectively called a fuel depot. You'll want to pour the naphtha into a container that you can seal after you're done fueling. One common option are empty gallon paint cans from a hardware store. Please note, this container should not be used for permanent storage, only for temporary use while you're spinning. It can also be helpful to rest the container inside of a basin to catch any fuel that gets accidentally spilled while you're fueling. It is essential that you seal this or any type of container after fueling your prop. Naphtha is highly flammable even from some distance away due to the fuel vapors. Make sure you keep your fuel depot at least a dozen feet away from the area that you'll be performing in. Minimize the chance of accidentally setting it on fire. When fueling your prop, you don't need to leave it in for terribly long. 3 to 5 seconds will usually do the trick. Once you've dipped your prop and resealed your container, you'll want to remove any excess fuel from your wicks. Just like a mop that's been freshly dipped in soap and water, your wicks will likely have a bit of fuel dripping off of them. To wring out the excess fuel, place a ziploc bag around the prop's wick and seal it tight. Next, spin the prop for several seconds, letting the centrifugal force push any excess fuel out into the bag. When you're done, stop spinning and remove the bag from your wick before pouring the wrung out fuel back into your fuel container. One thing to flag here, plastic bags will degrade over time when they're exposed to the chemicals in several different types of fuels. Replace these often so they don't spring leaks. Now, there's one more thing that you need before you can start spinning, and that's a safety spotter. This can be a good friend, family member, or fellow fire spinner who's willing to help you out in exchange for you doing the same favor for them. Being a safety spotter is an important tradition in the flow arts world. Not just because it keeps your fellow performer safe, but also because it creates a culture of mutual support. It's just as important to be the person protecting the performer as it is to be the performer. Your safety spotter should have a safety blanket. This can either be a towel that's been soaked in water or a sheet of duvetine. Duvetine is a heavy cotton cloth that's been treated with a fire-resistant chemical. You can get them from most fire prop suppliers and theatrical supply outlets. Now, one quick note here. Fire-resistant does not mean fireproof. A duvetine soaked in fuel can easily go up in flames. Be careful with them and give them a chance to dry off in between uses. Also, check your spinning area for any debris that may be flammable or hazards to your movement. Once you're lit, it'll be really difficult to focus on anything other than the flame itself. If you and your safety spotter are both ready, you can go ahead and light up. As you spin, be careful of your environment, audience, and your safety spotter. It is your safety spotter's job to both keep the crowd under control as well as to monitor you in case of mishaps. It's not unusual in your first minute of spinning for a small amount of the fuel to get transferred to either your body or the ground and become temporarily lit. Most of these fires go out themselves within a few seconds, or will do so by having you blow them out or patting them down. If your safety spotter sees such a fire start, they should call out your name along with the specific body part that is on fire to help you target the problem. If, after a few seconds, you're unable to put out the fire yourself, they should get your attention, have you hold your props away from your body, and put it out with their safety blanket, holding the area firmly for a few seconds. Once lit, the experience of spinning fire is hugely powerful. The sound it makes washes over you like ocean waves. The heat will warm you even on the coldest of nights. Sometimes all you can see is the fire. It erases the ground beneath you and sometimes even the audience, leaving you alone in its glow. It lasts for only a few minutes before your fuel is spent. I frequently have difficulties remembering all the things I intended to do as the timer winds down on my burn. Be smart. Don't be reckless. Don't try things you barely know how to do. Be safe with yourself and honor your time here, for it is brief. You may get fatigued and need to be put out early. If that happens, get your safety spotter's attention. They should spread their safety blanket out on the ground in front of you and have you place your prop in the center of it. Next, they should fold the safety blanket over your prop like they're wrapping a burrito to put it out. Give your safety blanket a few seconds to put out the prop on its own. If the prop continues to burn, try holding the prop from the outside of the blanket to choke off its supply of oxygen. Wait until you're sure it's out before attempting to remove it from the safety blanket. Give your props a few minutes to cool down in between burns. This will also give you a chance to catch your breath, check for burns, and come down from the adrenaline rush of spinning. Your prop will also stay lit longer if you take a 15-minute break in between burns. Now, it's entirely possible you'll get burned as you're spinning. Most burns are no big deal, leaving soot or red marks that will go away in a day or two. On occasion, you'll get a more severe burn that requires medical attention. When this happens, apply a topical burn cream, wrap the burn in a sterile dressing, and seek medical care. Again, be safe, not sorry. When you're done spinning, return your fuel to its original container for safe storage. Now, this is not a complete overview of everything you need to know about fire safety. It is a very quick explanation of the most basic elements you're likely to encounter. If you're interested in spinning fire, please check out the safety course put out by the Flow Arts Institute for a more comprehensive guide to fire safety. Spinning fire feels incredible and looks beautiful. Just make sure you're doing it safely. We'll cover safety in greater depth in a future series of videos, but for now, enjoy the flow and stay safe out there. Peace. Hey, so you might have noticed that this video is a bit of a Trojan horse where I said it was about the importance of fire spinning in the flow arts, and most of it was about fire safety, and it's going to be one of those sorry not sorry moments because one of my backers on Patreon a number of months ago brought this up as a thing that they were very, very interested in seeing, that, I had this big platform with a huge audience built in, and it's one of those questions of what do you do with that? And educating people on things like fire safety, I think, is a really, really good use of that platform. So if you have things that you would like to see me tackle in videos, sign up at patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi In a lot of ways, I think of the people that have signed up to be my subscribers as kind of like a board. They're people that have a legitimate stake in the content that I'm creating. And of course, I have the final say, but that was a big aha moment of seeing that that was important to people and saying, hey, you know, I've got the platform that can get this information out there. So thank you to those of you who are already my supporters on Patreon, and thank you for your wonderful feedback and for helping me make content like this. If you'd like to see more content like this, maybe information on, you know, injury avoidance or dance or any number of things, sign up at patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and let me know. Thanks for watching.